Popular all over the world now. It's Mr. Russell Howard.
Hello.
Russell, it's great to have you here. Well, thank you for coming back on the show.
Thanks for having us, mate. They are big bastards back there. Jesus.
Are you enjoying that? They are large men, aren't they?
Yeah. What I love is the fact that me and Carrie have got a whole sofa to ourselves. We're tiny, and the rugby boys are all stood there next to each other.
They're cosy, that's what it is. Oh, hold on, they're watching.
That was like looking at the back of the school bus for a second, wasn't it?
OK, I would think, would this be fair to say, do you think, Russell, that after Jethro, you are probably the West Country's most famous comedian?
What about Justin E. Collins?
Oh, well... but, you know, do you go back to the West Country much? Are you in touch with your roots? Are your family still there?
Yeah, I did a half marathon there last week for charity. This sums up the West Country. So it's 13 miles, I'm kind of jogging along, and I got overtaken by a little old lady who genuinely slapped my ass and went, "That's what I call good news." And it was so beautiful, and she's just kind of waddled away.
I love the fact that you were overtaken by an old lady as well. That shows her commitment to...
But she was doing that sort of, like, funny run of kind of... And I was like, oh, look at her, she's doing a dip, and then suddenly whacked me. She left a mark.
Wow.
Yeah. And I had a massage. It was two weird things. I had a massage the next day, and this masseuse was the funniest man I've ever met. He's so camp. He's, like, rubbing my thighs, going, "They're rock hard! They're rock hard!" And then kind of going my hamstrings, went, "Rock hard!" And then he accidentally brushed against my cock and went, "Finally, something soft."
Now, last time we were speaking, you were telling me about your family.
Yes.
OK, and I think last time you went on tour, you took them with you, or some of them went with you, is that right? Now...
My mum comes a lot, yeah. That's a better
wise?
way of putting it than that.
Is she here this evening, by any chance?
She'll absolutely love that. No, she loves coming on tour.
Yeah.
And she's just...
Well, why wouldn't she, Russell?
Yes, my mother is very fond of joining me on tour. Yeah, and she's just a laugh. She kind of just sits at the back. She kind of knows everything I'm going to say and just laughs along. She's brilliant.
And does she ever heckle, or do you get heckled much by anyone else? Does she look after you on tour?
She doesn't really... She does the warm-up. Like, so she kind of, like, tests the mic. Like, she tested the mic at the Albert Hall. It was one of the coolest moments, seeing my mum. My mum's 4'9", and she was just kind of singing Lady Gaga backstage at the Albert Hall. It's just great, and nobody's telling her to move, because I'm here with the talent.
Does she work for you, Mum, then?
Does my mum work for me?
Is she employed? Because you say she goes on tour with you and she tests the mic.
You're making it awkward. No, I don't pay my mum to hang out with me.
Well, no, but it sounds to me like you should. It sounds to me like you're exploiting her.
This interview's really gone differently to how I thought. Like, my mum's going to be saying, "Yeah, I am getting exploited." But yeah, we're doing
Oh, your poor mother.
We're doing she loves it. Honestly, my mum...
No, you see, now you're making
it... This sums up my mum. We were in traffic, right? We were in traffic, me and Mum, and a guy got out of his car because he recognised me, and he knocked on the window. He was like, "Oh, can I have a photo?" And my mum started screaming, "Help! He's kidnapped me!"
Well, you see, if you paid us, you wouldn't be shouting that kind of thing, you know?
Be shouting even louder. That's the problem.
OK, so you're going on a world tour.
Yeah.
Now, is this a first for you? Have you toured? You've played in other parts of the world. I know that. Yeah. But you haven't done a proper global tour before.
I've done gigs in America and gigs in Australia. I did some gigs in Norway.
And how did that go?
It was all right, actually, yeah. It's kind of... Have you been to Norway?
I've been to Norway, but obviously I haven't worked in Norway, so do they... Because most of them speak English, don't they?
Yeah, it's amazing. So we just did, like, a little gig. There's kind of 500 people. It was great. I tell you what, the weirdest thing about it is that they eat... Like, they eat deer and reindeer there, right? And I was talking to the waiter, and I was like, "What's the difference between deer and reindeer?" And he looked at me, he was like, "One is Rudolph, the other is Bambi." You must decide who you love more. But the saddest thing about it, I told my mum, was that I'm doing a gig in Norway, and she was like, "Oh, in English?" And you're like, "Probably."
Yeah.
Like, how long have we known each other, Mum? You would have thought once on a Let's Step on a rudimentary Norwegian.
And where are you looking forward to going back to? And are there any places that you wouldn't care to return to that you've toured in?
I like doing gigs in Wales, actually. Oh, yeah, and Catherine's Welsh.
Catherine, of course, is very Welsh. About as Welsh as you can get.
Yeah, but I learnt... Do you know these words? I was going to talk to you about this. I think the Welsh language is the best and the most literal in the world because the Welsh for iron is smoothio. Right? Jellyfish, wibbly wobbly. And my favourite, microwave, pop-tea-ping. I mean, who doesn't want to live in a world like that? Hello, is that 999? I've had a smashy in my brum-brum. I love it.
OK, so Russell's got his new show. He's returning. It's called Stand Up Central. It's coming back in the middle of May, I think.
Yeah.
It's a great show. I love the way what you do on the show because, of course, you do stand-up and you have two, or is it two each week?
Yeah. We have, so it's me, 2 stand-ups, and it's basically like loads of my mates.
When you're performing live generally, when you're out there, I hear you occasionally have things thrown at you during gigs. Is that right?
Yes.
What sort of things?
Lemsip. Yeah, rock and roll. I once had a lady, it wasn't thrown, it was thrust. And she asked me if I would sign her dildo. Wow. And I pointed out that I didn't have time to kind of go around her house and sign it. And she held it aloft, like a fleshy Excalibur, and went, "We don't have to go home." And
sorry, she wasn't even. This wasn't a private meeting backstage. She was in the audience.
She was in the audience. She was armed. She had a dildo in one hand and a Sharpie pen in the other. It was like a robbery in a Ryman's.
You don't want to get the two mixed up. You don't get the marks out.
Yeah, exactly. But this is the weird thing. So she's like, "Will you sign it?" And I don't know if you've ever written on a dildo.
No, funnily enough, no.
Turns out they're tricky to write on. Who knew? And I was sort of really kind of awkward trying to write my name like that. And I sort of handed it to her and went, "Sorry about the handwriting." To which she went, "Don't worry, it'll be smudged later." Oh. It was just one of the most amazing moments. This poor dildo seemed to look at me and go, "Help me, man!"
I like hearing you talk about it because you do have an interesting perspective. If you were doing Good News right now, it's not on at the moment, of course. I know it's moved over to BBC Two now. What subjects would you be dealing with now? Because I get the feeling that it got slightly more political. Is that because your audience became more politically aware, do you think?
I don't know. I think, yeah, maybe. Like, I was more interested in stuff. Like, we spoke about the NHS last year, the tampon tax, the tax credits. We spoke about Paris. So we kind of sort of dealt with quite big topics and tried to make it kind of interesting, funny, and I think people are just interested in the world. Like Donald Trump, the boo and the kind of feeling of disappointment that we all have that America are going to vote in Trump. It just blows our mind because he's just this big, you know, slimy, fat bully. But he's like Jabba the Hutt. We need Carrie to strangle him. Yeah. Like, yeah. And he's just got no policies. He has no policy. I'm going to build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it. That is never going to happen. Yeah. That's like my brother going, "I'm going to bang Cheryl Cole and she's going to bring the Johnnies." No, she's not. But I've got no time for sort of divisive... Any politics based on fear. It just doesn't connect. Because I think that's one of the best things about us, and there's loads of American comics just ripping the piss out of him, and that's what we do really well. Like, it's like when David Cameron... Do you remember that? When Cameron joined Twitter, it's one of the best moments in this country, because the first question he asked us, he said, "Britain, ask me anything." And the first question put to him was, "Dear David, do you think Monster Munch are smaller than they used to be?" He was bombarded with, "Which MP would you vajazzle and why?" And that's what we're like. We take the piss out of leaders, you know. I'd like to talk about Trump. That also, like, immigration, I think, is a huge... Like, there was a story the other day. It's like our leaders don't understand language because the Tory MP, David Davies, said that anybody that gave aid to people in the Calais jungle, they were being irresponsible. And you're like, what? That's not irresponsible. Would be like going to a greyhound race with your kid dressed as a rabbit. Come on, let's go through it. That's like waking your nan up dressed as death. That's irresponsible. But giving starving people aid, that's kindness.
Or just showing kindness to anyone else is not irresponsible.
And I think that's it, really. Like, that's what we did on Good News. We found little kind of quotes and little tidbits like that. And as sort of you all responded there, it's more interesting, kind of, if you can find those little small stories and kind of chat about them.
Well, I'm excited you're on the show, and I'm thrilled that it's going so well for you because you're a smart comedian. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Russell Howard. Thank you for coming on. Still to come on the show, we'll be joined by the fabulous Carrie Fisher, Catherine Jenkins and the England Rugby Grand Slam hero, so don't go away.